Well. If it isn't me alone today, I'm afraid, because this is very impromptu. I've got a little bit of time to kill before I have to go back out. I'm going to take the missus to a lovely dinner at a lovely pub that I grew up next to, in fact. So I've got an hour or so to kill. So I thought, why not attempt to get some content out? Because I intended to create a rather well-edited video this week and get that out to all of you, but I had no energy and ended up sleeping away as it was. Alan Steve, Dabbling Warlock, thank you for joining the stream. It is much appreciated to see you all. Oh, bloody hell, it's Emmy. Well, nice to see you, stranger. How you doing? I go ahead and share the YouTube stream to all of your millions of rabid. I do look old. Yeah, you're right. I've aged substantially in the last year because of all this stuff that I'm doing to myself. Not nearly enough tea. And yes, Dabbling Warlock, I know. The learning to draw thing has not gone well for me at all, but it's not all lost because I have been doing more in terms of writing and world building. So, which is what I'm much more comfortable with. That's where my strengths lie. I can write circles around most people. In fact, I will go as far to say as I will say this about myself. I think my writing is better than most modern authors, but the issue is I don't do enough of it to put out. Hey, it's Brewwolf. Welcome, man. I think this is the first time on stream for you. Maybe. Welcome. Good to see you. There's Asheray. Welcome. Climbing out from the Underdark. Guys, welcome. Do come on in. It's nice and warm in here. It's ever so cold and wet and rainy outside. Baby, it's cold outside. Am I allowed to say that? Is that song uncancelled now? Does that come full circle? Do share the YouTube stream to your Twitter followers, chaps and chapettes. And we'll see if we can get a few other people in here, because I've been having some thoughts, some ideas and thoughts and ideas as to where I want to go over the next year. And things that I can give back to the community as well. I'm actually at the moment re-downloading Conan Exiles because I'm thinking I will open up a private server to this community, Emmy's community, and a couple other YouTube communities as well. I was going to make it a Lawsworn only thing, but I think it would be more fun with more people, so I might make the entry the entry to it quite easy with no financial gatekeeping, because I think more people, more fun in that sort of thing, right? But we'll have to see. YouTube's doing quite well in terms of being able to fund itself, so it's a matter of oh bloody hell, it's the Once Lost Games dev. Do I need to get you in here right now, Victor? Is that Victor behind there? Do I need to drag you in here to impromptu interview you? Is that what we're gonna do? No, I've been so incredibly busy. In fact, I was supposed to be working on a big thing for Once Lost Games, and it's just life has just sort of emptied everything out onto me all at once, and so things have sort of taken a bit of a backseat. But we'll try and get back on the horse. The scholar shall ride again, and we'll see where we go. Oh look, it's Dean. Hello, Dean. Welcome, sir. No, I want to open up a Conan Exiles server, private, but to subscribers of this and several other communities, and have some fun with it, because I think that could be fun. There was once a game a while back that is now closed down where people would compete to be crowned king of a server. That was always quite fun, but I think there's only a few games now that are sort of left over from that sort of Minecraft-inspired survival era where everyone was trying to be the new Minecraft. I think Rust is one. You've got Ark Survival Evolved, which I think is still going. Some bar steward is letting off fireworks. Yeah, guys, again, throw the YouTube link out. We're sort of hovering around that 11 to 12 mark, which is very fun. Ashray, your lungs are full of cold. Good. I didn't even know Drow could get colds. Offer a Zerf Neblin to Lolth. I'm sure she'll cure you right up. Or maybe she's punishing you. Maybe you've wronged her in some way. Ark will not die, sadly. There is a YouTuber that does some really interesting Ark videos. I don't play Ark, but I do watch his videos because they are genuinely quite fun. If you can hear the fireworks in the background, I apologize. I'm not sure why they're happening, but they are. This is... the problem is, the fireworks happen so close to my... where I live, they often bounce, like the shards bounce off of the roof. So it's a good thing everything's wet and cold. Otherwise, I might go up like a tinderbox. What was I saying before the explosions distracted me? I hope that's rain I'm hearing and not burning. Oh, man, that would be a shame, wouldn't it? Oh, I'm going to do an impromptu stream. House burns down. Space Engineers is another one, Emmy. Yeah, that's what I was talking about, wasn't it? Yeah, Conan Exiles, I think, is more in tune with the channel, more in tune with what I want to do with the channel in terms of being a fantasy-esque channel. It's funny because I'm actually wearing a Legend of Drizzt shirt at the moment, and as we know, Drizzt would beat Conan in a fight. So fireworks to celebrate the surprise stream. Cheers, Victor. I have a special Talking in the Library planned for Wednesday. We're going to get Sean Kierkegaard, the editor of Battleborn magazine, on, along with a couple other content creators to talk about genre fantasy as a whole, have a holistic view of where it's come from, where it's going, and how we feel about its current... Will you stop that? There's no occasion for this. I apologize. But yes, there's going to be a stream based on the soul of fantasy. And if you're not aware of Battleborn magazine, it was a recently funded Kickstarter, but the chap running it has got some chops behind it. In fact, Victor, while you're there is a YouTuber called Sir Schmib that was on the Tittle 2 episodes ago. He'll be on this episode as well. If it is amiable to you, sir, am I using that word? Amicable to you, sir? Then I would like to introduce the two of you, because he makes some very good videos, and he has mentioned an interest in the Wayward Realms. And I think that would be a fun time to be had by all. That's very rude. Thank you. Boom. Oh, boy. But yes. Yes, the Redcoat Guy Fawkes has indeed returned. What am I jabbering on about today? Violence? That's a good question. I know that I'm not signed into Rumble, and I need to be so that I can keep an eye out over there for all of you people that are not allowed on YouTube. I would actually, at this point, advertise that show that I'm sometimes on, but can't because they got banned from YouTube. And tell everyone to go and tune into them later on tonight. But those who know. Drizzt beats Conan by just avoiding the fight until Conan dies of old age. I mean, that's one way of doing it, but that's boring. We want action and swinging swords. You know what, Victor? I will... I'm going to just take a little quick screenshot of that and send it over to him. Just to remind me. There are so many people I'm talking to. I feel like I'm organizing some sort of revolution in the background here for fantasy. Yes, also Delver is streaming all the time. He's never not streaming. But I think you have to be over 18 to gaze upon his visage. There was a strange... Speaking of those that are not allowed to be named on this channel... due to silly reasons. There was a lot of conversation about Rangers over this... over Delver, you're not even in the stream and you're throwing me off my game, man. Hey, Michael, how's it going? Bingo Manzero. Wait, what's happening now? Well, apparently World War III has broken out outside my living room window. That's the explosions. But there's been a lot of talk about Rangers. Which happens to be my favorite class, despite I don't think I've ever actually played a Ranger in 5th edition. Which is, now that I'm thinking about it, probably a gap in my resume that I might need to explain. there's been a lot of talk about how Rangers aren't exactly fitting into the modern game, and I can't help but feel that's a very video gamey way of looking at it. In fact, the entirety of the problem with Rangers. There you go, bingo. That is exactly true. That is exactly true. They are peak. People don't understand how to use them at all. But it's not exactly everyone's fault, because when you read the modern stuff, exactly right. Again, Bill, you are on point there. They've turned them into magic users with bows and arrows, whereas a ranger isn't necessarily a ranged character. The point of rangers is to range out from a location, not use ranged weapons. And I think one of the really terrible things of Dungeons and Dragons sort of 3, 4, and 5 is that they kind of get pigeonholed into this: we use a bow with a little bit of magic and sometimes melee. And they're trying to be a jack of all trades class, which isn't what the ranger is supposed to be doing. The ranger is supposed to be proficient in combat. I would actually be perfectly okay with rangers in every TTRPG I play having no magic whatsoever. Just no magic. Oh, I whacked the mic. Oh dear. And simply being a proficient at melee ranged combat, and then having a mass amount of wilderness skills. Because you've got your sort of thief and rogue archetypes, which are going to be more urban and dungeon environments with your lock picking, etc. And rangers should be exactly, Michael Dell, you've got it, man. Rangers are good in the field, tracking, hunting, etc. In fact, I have created a ranger for Untold Destiny, which is Dean's system, and it is 1,000% easier to create a ranger kind of skill monkey character, because I am a tracker. I have anti-tracking capabilities. And what a class does is it simply amplifies the skills that you want to have. And I think that Untold Destiny is going to be the way in which sort of a modern game is more easily going to give rangers, especially, that oomph. Also, I will say, if I was to homebrew, and I probably will homebrew Untold Destiny at some point for my own setting, I would strip a lot of magic from a lot of classes. You're okay with rangers having abilities they do at higher levels. I understand, but Aragorn was never really. Aragorn begins life as a ranger. This is why I don't think fiction and the tabletop are going to be exactly congruent with one another. I was having this discussion with Brass the other night, and we had about 3 hours worth of discussion early into the wee hours of the morning, and it was this idea that the tabletop is trying to add mechanics to a concept, right? This is what Rob Kuntz will say a lot of, I think, Delver, where you take a concept and you try and mechanicize it to sort of have fun with rules. You're playing, but with rules, extra steps, which is fine. But the fictional concept of Aragorn is you put the ranger aside. You don't forget all those skills, but you sort of take up the mantle of the fighter or even paladin in Return of the King. I think a lot of what Aragorn is kind of I think Aragorn defies the typical TTRPG class features, much like Conan the Barbarian defies what it means to be a barbarian with typical RPG class features, right? Because he is a smart tactician. Yeah, he gets angry and smash, but he is a smart, cunning panther of a man. I think panther is how I would describe Conan, which is very funny because Drizzt owns a panther. But I don't know. I think magic is one of those things that needs to be really restricted. And this is one thing that I disagree with Interon a lot. If Victor is still in the chat, hey, it's the brothers Corinne. If Victor is still in the chat, one of the things that I think is very interesting about the Wayward Realms, which is coming out, is how magic has become this really restrictive thing where you need to go and collect other stuff to be able to create more potent or more lasting versions of spells, like you're building your own grimoire from the ground up, which is fantastic. I think magic should require a lot of effort to get and maintain. I just think martial classes should be given more oomph. Not more oomph, but more prominence. A wizard should be a 1,000 encounter. I don't like this idea that you can sort of walk into a bandit hedge wizard should not really exist. If a bandit clan has access to even a low-level magic user, oh boy, that bandit clan is now getting a massive bounty put on their head, because if that low-level magic user starts gaining more power, boom, you've got a massive problem in the countryside. And it's these sorts of... Magic is a dangerous thing. In my own setting of Varfal, magic has destroyed the world over about twice, and is now very, very rare. This isn't to say you can't have your wizard towers and your wizard schools. I just think that there's too much magic. Too much magic. I would disagree on limiting magic myself, because it's the betters or the marshals are the ones face tanking. That's a really MMO RPG idea, Ashray, and I suggest you go and play 4th edition. Because 4th edition has those sorts of restrictive class roles. I'm a lot more freeform when it comes to thinking about how characters do things. I see a character before I see a class or an ability, right? Yep, there you go. Thank you very much, Once Lost, Victor. I love you. Yeah, it does come down to the world you want to build. You're very correct. But I think, Dean, there's a difference between saying this is the world I want and this is the world that's congruent within itself, right? So you set rules out for your fantastical world, and if you have magic users running around that can just obliterate someone's house, that magic user is immediately under suspicion. At least in the way my mind works, having, studying European history especially, just the idea of a witch that could place a curse on a crop was enough to start burning innocent women. So to me, magic is very much a dangerous thing. The Heretical Nerd, magic should be more like Warhammer Fantasy and less like the feckin' Remembered Realms. I don't know about that. I like the idea of the Winds of Magic and the way that it sets up throughout the old world and the new world, or whatever you call Warhammer Fantasy setting, the Mortal Realms now, I believe it's called. The issue is Vancian magic systems, the spell slot system, preparing spells ahead of time, is just more fun. I don't really see why people have an issue with Vancian magic, because I like the idea of being able to sort of think ahead and plan and select spells for what I think I'm going to encounter. Delver tells me to check. Is he about to force his way in here? Is he about to force his way in here? Yes, he is. You have feelings on what you're discussing. Okay, but we don't have long. I've got to take the missus out for a romantic dinner about 7:30 my time. So let me do this. Let me get this open here. We get the correct music. Get ready, boys and girls. You're about to witness someone who has feelings, and boy, does Delver feel things. Oh man. Okay, that's fair enough, Ashray. You were taking the piss. It's Delver. Hey, Bill. How you doing? Oh, you're all the way down there. What are you doing down there? He's also muted. He's thrown off the whole stream. There. Oh.
Here I am.
There we are. Hello.
Hello.
I even got your. You're the only guest that comes on here that has their own theme music.
Yeah. Well, what can I say, man? I'm just that damn popular. No, I promise I'm not here to shit the place up this morning. But no, I have very strong feelings about this, and this is probably something we should have done a title about rather than me just jumping in high on caffeine.
The Delver show.
And yeah, but no. the reason Rangers are screwed up is a fundamental reason. One of the fundamental reasons why D&D got screwed up, and it is because of an incorrect perception by people, by which I mean designers of third edition, who didn't understand how the rules worked. They didn't understand the fundament of D&D. And I talked about this. It's Chesterton's fence. They started ripping away stuff without understanding how it worked.
Was that only
And
that you posted?
they made the guys that came in and did third edition didn't understand how D&D worked. They just understand how they remembered the way they thought that it was when they were 10, 12 years old in the 70s playing D&D. And then they got a hold of D&D and they took what they thought they remembered how D&D was and said, well, we have to fix that. They weren't fixing D&D, they were fixing their memories of D&D. And so they said, well, you know, magic users cast like 4 spells a day and then they're useless. So let's give more to magic users. And so you ended up from 2000 to 2007 with everybody screaming and bitching, caster supremacy, caster supremacy, caster supremacy. And the fix wasn't to go back and look at from 1989 all the way back to 1974. It was to look at this mutated brainworm that they had, where they kept screeching caster supremacy, and say, oh, okay, we'll just give you all spells then. I mean, when I look at a 5e book, when I look at a 5e book and they're like, my fighter can only cast 10 spells a day, I think that I'm like, what are you even talking about? Did I take crazy pills this morning? Everybody has spells. Their fix was inflationary. You know, if you look out at your country and say, gosh, man, everybody's not doing well, the answer isn't drive up to everybody's house with a pallet full of $1,000 bills.
Because we're getting too close to what's happened several times over the last 5 years.
right, exactly. But it becomes inflationary, and the Ranger is just one victim of that, because they turned everyone into a magic user. Rangers became magic users with bows. Thieves, if they're even allowed to be called that anymore, are magic users with lockpicks.
I played a thief for 2 years, got to level 20.
And I need to take a breath now before my lungs collapse.
Well, while you're taking your breath, I will say, no, it's not only, you know me, I've got a great respect for the old stuff. And I try and incorporate many concepts as I can into my sort of brain-rotted group from the old days. Which is funny, because as soon as I started doing that, my kill count skyrocketed. The issue I see is the Ranger is... It's not even the Ranger's problem. It's the game's problem. Because the modern attitude is very video gamey, and I like video games, you like video games.
Yes.
Where people don't find value in playing the character, they find value in numbers on the board. They want to be doing the most damage, they want to be succeeding the most saves, succeeding the most skill checks. And there's no real fun for a lot of people to be had in failure, for one, which I get, it can be frustrating. And there's no real fun to be had in simply existing within the world. I think a lot of people have sort of forgotten the concept of what we're attempting with doing all this mechanization of worlds like this, is we're attempting to step out of ourselves and live in a fantasy world for a couple hours. Instead of, I've got one friend, I love him to death, don't let him know that I said that, but he is an autist of a very special degree. He plays Path of Exile. Don't know if you've ever played that game. It's a Diablo-esque game, but the skill tree in that game is ridiculous, and each skill gives you like, a percent here, a percent there, and it's you plan a character build out hundreds of levels in advance, so you know which routes to take on this really like massive skill web thing. And now we have people coming to the table and sort of wanting to have a build mapped and planned before they... before they've even got to rolling a stat. They have an idea of what they want to play, which can be fine. I've ran good campaigns where I've allowed people to customize stats beforehand and just say, yeah, if that's the character you want to play, justify it to me, and I will tweak it so there's some downsides to it. And
Right.
it worked well.
If
But
we're talking about tabletop, though, dude, build supremacy ruined D&D.
I agree. I think the entire idea. I mean, yes, you want to play something that functions. You don't want to just be completely and utterly useless in all scenarios. But the idea is to live in this world for a bit and to care about it, not to want to say, "Hey, look at all this damage I do." Which it's natural human competition, I suppose, for everyone to want to roll the highest number around the table. I don't know. I think the first. Go on. I've spoken for a bit.
Okay, no. That dude, that's okay. And I'm not trying to lower my shield and bash my way into your stream, which actually I just did. But no, the fundamental breakage with Rangers is a deeper problem than just with a Ranger. And I will say this, and then I will step away because it's your show, and I don't want to, look at me. I'm the host now.
You're the fella now.
But no. I just want to say that I am at peace with doing Aragorn things at high level rangerdom in AD&D, because by the time you're using a crystal ball, casting some druid spells, that sort of thing, the power curve on the upper end of AD&D is such that character's really going to be retired anyway.
There is a thing that Brass and I say to each other, and that is, at one point or another, it's different for each edition of D&D. At one point or another, you just need to embrace the chaos and accept that your player characters are now God and cannot die.
Well, that's as maybe.
Well, aside from pulling some utter bullshit as a DM, there are times where a player character approaches a certain level of power. Brass's current character in my game.
I have both modules in the UB series, Jack, so UB utter bullshit. I have both modules in that series.
Rocks fall, everybody dies.
There is a specifically in Tomb of Horrors, there's a rocks fall and everybody dies room. I'm not kidding you.
Man. But before you go, did you ever read that old web comic, The Order of the Stick?
It's been a minute or two, but yeah, I have looked at it.
Every now and again, that comic just kind of pops its way back into my head. It has been over 15 years since I looked at that comic. I am a sexy, shoeless god of war.
Uh,
I will let you go, my friend. Thanks for popping in.
Namaste, brother. Have a lovely day.
I shall.
Much love to you and the missus.
Indeed, I'm going to take her to a lovely meal in a bit.
All right. Peace.
Peace, bud. Right, well, that was the Delver. And actually, as he goes, I put my Ring of Barahir on because I'm a nerd. What were we talking about? Rangers? How everything new is bad and terrible and everything old is good. I say that, but like one of the better systems, like, it's funny because I've got all of my. I was looking at my 3.5 stuff. Here's my notepad where I've been doing all my Untold Destiny stuff. I actually have in my possession the up-to-date rules of Untold Destiny, yet to be published. Look at this. Aren't I a special boy? I don't even know why I'm showing this off. I'm just bragging at this point that I've got things that you don't. If only I had a copy of The Wayward Realms to play. I don't even know if Victor's still there. Someone actually, DS Dabbling Warlock, Order of the Stick. That's about as good as my drawing gets, is the Order of the Stick levels of drawing. If people haven't looked at that webcomic, they should. I'm pretty sure it's still up. It might even still be going. If it is, I'd be very impressed. I think the first comic is them upgrading from 2nd edition to 3rd. And the bard has like a poof, and then he's got a change shirt on, which is quite funny. Also, the first non-binary character in D&D is in that. You will brag, you bastard. Give it to me. It's just, there's going to be a really dark, stormy night. And Victor's going to hear like a boom, 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 boom. And he's going to answer the door. And I'm going to be illuminated by a streak of lightning that comes down behind me. I'm going to be breathing heavily, covered in mud and soaked through because I've just swam the Atlantic Ocean. Give me the key. Hold my fucking reproduction blunted narsil to his throat. Give me the Wayward Realms. That would be terrifying if only because I would have to travel thousands upon thousands of miles to do that. I'd be very committed to the bit if that were to happen. Well, Brewolf, you got to start somewhere, man. Keep going at it. I'm trying to help, but you have to be willing to help yourself. Don't you turn this around on me. I'm busy. I got things to do, like go to sleep when I get home from work. You have real swords. I mean, so do I. They're just not allowed to be sharp. It's dull. It'll hurt more. I used to do a little bit of reenactment, 12th century sort of Norman reenactment. So with the kite shield and not the kettle helms, but the great helms, the crusader helms. Sort of like, crusading type gear with the gambesons and chainmail and surcoats and things. One of the guys I used to reenact with actually had a battle bishop helm that he had painted in the colors of the heraldry of the knight at the time. But I won't say too much about that knight because he's quite famous and I will dox myself. So yeah, I used to be in the shield wall. I had a knightly sword and a big kite shield all painted up. That was always fun. And I tell you what, once you've done proper fighting with actual steel weapons and having an actual scrap, I don't mean this sort of HEMA rubbish where you're sort of trying to be airy-fairy and do all the best techniques. I mean an actual, honest-to-God, forming the boar snout scrap where you're trying to break another team's line. When you've had a proper scrap and full kit, you really start thinking about D&D combat and tabletop combat and even like just writing fantasy fiction in a completely different way. It's one of the reasons that actually the Wayward Realms' initial combat gameplay from that gameplay trailer a year ago now that gameplay trailer came out appealed to me so much because having swung the sword and having had it get stuck, not in someone, but in the shield wall and ripped from my hand, that weightiness is quite cool. I will say it's shield walls are one of those things that can very easily break apart if everyone isn't willing to die. Pretend to die. You really do need to be fearless as that shield wall goes forward or takes the coming charge. We used real arrows, by the way. They were blunted, but they still hurt, even through the padding and armor. Come to America, where you can buy swords out of a catalog. When I went to the States last time, I was up near Yosemite with the wife and her family. And we went into this mountainside shop. And there was this guy just selling knives longer than my arms, like Messer-sized Bowie knives. And he's like, oh, you should buy one of these and take it back to the UK. Like, that's not going to work, mate. My government has a particular feeling on knives. They're very pretty, but we are not getting these back into the UK. I understand, Victor. I understand, but as an unbiased YouTuber, I have to be. What am I kidding? I'm very clear that I am simping for the Wayward Realms at every possible opportunity. I am not unbiased at all. By the way, Victor, I don't know if it's of any interest to you, but I'm going to be. I'm really playing with the. You were here maybe when I said this at the beginning of the stream. I'm playing around with the idea of opening up a Conan Exiles server and sort of handing out a few invites here and there to people in the community and to people like content creators and game developers that I know. Could be interesting. If you fancy ever joining in, let me know. You live in Texas, so I could just walk around with a greatsword like a crazy person. I mean, you say crazy person, I say prepared. Are you still allowed pointed kitchen knives? Yes, we're still allowed kitchen knives. At least I hope so, because I've got a number of them. I use them for cooking. We're getting very close to politics here. We need to step away from this. I like not being in jail. And my government gets very jumpy. Oh, what else have we got going on here? Jack's a BBEG in the Wayward Realms confirmed. Man, I have pencils and I have paper, man. It's just I sit down to do stuff, and I can either work on D&D stuff, work on video stuff, or fall asleep. Oh, look, the mods are getting involved. Don't let Steven smite you from beyond the grave. Alas, I have Conan Exiles on the Xbox. I think is it cross? Someone look up Conan Exiles being crossplay for me. That'll be handy. Who uses a console nowadays? Victor, you disappoint me. PC Master Race, man. Then again, here's me saying I spent $2,000 several years ago now making this computer, and I play mostly Age of Empires 2 now. A game from 2000, I think, 1999, something like that. The First Amendment is a wonderful thing. Nerd, you cook for your wife? Yeah, of course. She cooks for me. It's a team effort. She does it a lot more for me than I do for her, to be fair. But it is a team effort. One thing that I was considering doing is creating a scholar IRL thing to talk about more real life issues. And something that I find myself very interested in is modern love. I'm a very lucky guy in that I've known my wife for many, many, many years. And we've been together for nearly 9 years. So I never really had to delve into the dating scene all that much. But when I did dip my toe in, man, that stuff's toxic. It's not healthy for the guys or girls doing it. And I would be very interested, sort of later down the line, maybe, in trying to give a little bit of advice to younger guys as they come up about what they should expect from a spouse and what a spouse should expect from them. Because I'm very much a I think the idea of love in a modern society has been commodified, instead of being a shared sacrifice for sacrifice experience. It's a really mushy, really strange thing for a fantasy YouTuber like me to talk about. But at one point, I was going to be a Catholic priest, and so I'm kind of mentally predisposed to thinking and talking about these things. Plus, I don't like the idea of these I don't like the idea of these conversations being relegated to politics, because it's not a political question. Love is a human condition. Cadley McAmbry, hello. Marriage should be a partnership, and it is a partnership. It is each partner brings a different set of skills to the marriage, and can lift the other up. I'll tell you what, it wasn't until look, I've been with my wife for 9 years, but we've only been married for nearly 4, and it wasn't until the marriage actually happened and we were living together that I started to understand the old idiom that women civilize men. Because I look back on the guy that I used to be, and I don't recognize him. Sure, there are certain things that remain the same, but there's a lot more legacy thinking that comes out of you, which I think is why it led to the decision to have a kid, which is something I never thought I'd do. But here we are. I actually had to go and buy a crib today. We were in a shop that sells, baby stuff, and being stood in. We also went to the supermarket after and stood in the baby clothing section, and it kind of hit me that this is actually happening. I'm doomed. Oh, look, I dropped viewers talking about this. I've gained a few on Rumble. I suppose that makes sense. Oh, speaking of Rumble, it's just Violence over there. How you doing, Violence? Oh, my back has gotten very itchy all of a sudden. That's another useful thing, when you've got a partner, is back scratches happen by request. Man, I really need to go and get my teeth polished again. I really live up to the British bad teeth standard, because I've lost teeth. My teeth are yellow from the amount of bloody tea that I drink. So yeah, I am stereotypical in the most heinous sense of that word. Excuse me, I've missed a couple bits of chats because I was rambling. Your girlfriend and you play together on the Xbox. We at one point had a giant city that we made between the two of us only. We called it Crom's Landing. That's really romantic. But if Crom ever did land there, you'd be fucked. There's a really interesting radio play of Conan and Bellet talking about religion and life. Maybe I will try and find it. Would I be allowed to just play that? When you were paying a compress from Nick, I can't say that on YouTube. Thank you, Emmy. Actually, I think I missed another thing that you said. I am here. Listen, I miss Bill, but I do have a lot of work. My new blog focus. I contact a lot of indie video game developers, so conduct interviews. I'm here, Jack. There's an awesome couple of game developers. In fact, he's right below you in the chat there. That you could get in contact with, which would be fun. There you go. If Victor's still there, the Elven Maiden has an audience of I think 6,000 people now. If you wanted to do a written interview with her, she's also hosted people like Rob Kuntz, which I still gonna toot my own horn here. I set up the interview between her and Rob Kuntz back in the day, who was one of the original creators of Dungeons and Dragons. So there you go. I am a people person. I bring people together, and then I watch them outdo me. Nerdy Southern boy here. Look, Warlock. This is not a dating program. What? Hold on. Let me go on to my private chats here over on Discord. Elven Maiden. What I'm gonna do is grab you, Victor, and there you go. I'm just gonna leave you two. Yay, friendship. I'm just gonna leave you two in that chat there. And there you go. Look, I'm helping. I think. Now kiss. But yeah, I think that would be a good match. I'd like to see Once Lost Games kind of come through in Tales from the Tavern at some point as well, because as I have said before, I believe Wayward Realms is actually the continuation of the philosophy that Bethesda kind of veered away from, because it comes out of AD&D and 2nd edition D&D. We need a Kenshi game. It's funny you should bring that up, Cadley, because I was thinking about that as I fell asleep 2 or 3 nights ago. I played a bit of Kenshi, but I would play more of it if it was medieval fantasy, because I much prefer medieval fantasy to post-apocalyptic. Right. With anyone? I think all the girls here are taken, and the people who are single aren't my type. Yeah. I mean, I was just trying to make fun of you, but to be fair, I've got to be careful how I phrase this. There are not many people nowadays, both men and women, that are mentally prepared for relationships, I think. Is that a fair enough way of phrasing it? I think the mental age of most people is not congruent with their physical age. I'm a 30-year-old man, and I'm sat here with my fantasy novels and my models and my video games and my TTRPGs and such, which would show a sort of immaturity on my part. However, there are other types of immaturity which I think are prevalent in modern dating, which make it a minefield. I do not for a second envy people who have to go through all that or try and go through that. Very rarely have I seen it work out. I've seen it fail many, many times. I have many Twitter notifications. My Twitter followers are very strange at the moment. They are just jumping up and down, and I don't understand why. I've got a long list of people that have just followed me. And of course, Grim makes a dirty comment. Of course he does. And it still feels like I'm faking it all. I'm finally not single, and it's an adjustment. I mean, the entirety of life is just sort of fake it till you make it. That's how I got Victor on in the first place, I think. No, I honestly have no clue why Once Lost Games deigned to actually come on my show. I asked, I guess, and they're like, yeah, sure, which I wasn't expecting. Not at all. Your type of woman is French. You see, I'd make fun of that, but I've got several women in my family through my ancestral line that are French. So I can't make fun of that. Thanks, man. Thanks. Oh, boy. It's very warm in here. I turned the heat up when I got in because of how cold it was outside, and now it's too hot, and I have to go all the way over there to turn off the heater, and I can't be asked. Where are we? Ooh, mind the microphone. Da-da-da. Oh, dead air. That's very bad. Very bad to have dead air. Do Normans count as French? No. No, they do not. No, they are not French. They didn't even speak proper French. They spoke a very strange mix of Old Norse and French. The Normans were Norsemen that conquered a part of northern France and then basically just did as they liked. The French king didn't have any control or sway over them. And then the Normans went on to conquer southern Italy. Does that make the southern Italians French? No. They also went on to conquer the entirety of the Holy Land. Does that make all of that French? No. I mean, my ancestral roots, due to some gene testing that was done, goes all the way back to sort of pre-Neolithic Britain, pre-Roman Britain. So I would call that Neolithic Britain. So my guys have been here for a while. In fact, it's a really odd thing to think about, sort of genetic history on this island, because if you take the old borders of Northumbria, Mercia, Wessex, and Norfolk, you'll find that a lot of sort of the genetic groups of English people still to this day line up with those old kingdoms. So all the people that were in Mercia then are in Mercia now. Northumbria has a lot more Viking stuff going on, but there's all the English genetics are still kind of around those old borders. It's quite fascinating that my people are so sedimentary, or sedentary. Sedimentary is about stones. That we just haven't moved. I mean, it's quite a recent thing for my family to be as far south as we are, and we're not even that far south. A lot of my family history is around York and Lincolnshire. I call Europe Italian due to the Roman Empire. The Romans weren't really Italian, though. They were Latins, not Italics. Normans have carried on as part of France since 1204 and consider themselves part of France. Okay, but the Normans that we're talking about left in 1066, 200 years before. You find that a lot of areas, Germany too, from what I've seen. Germany is a really interesting case because it's a bit of a basket. It's a bit of a basket case. Germany is one of those things that didn't exist until like 100 years ago. And if we sort of don't count the scuffles in the 20th century, it was kind of forced together between North and South. Like the Holy Roman Empire existed for a while, but that was a very loose confederation. You explained the joke, Jack. I dubbed the anti-joke. I don't understand. When did I explain a joke? I didn't explain the joke. I just corrected your history. There you go. You meant the conquest. That's different. There were very few Normans that actually came over. I think it was, 10,000 or so Normans, I want to say. Germany is de jure the property of France. Oh, we're never going to get over this. We're going to have another trench war. I think it's quite funny because you had a noble ruling class of several thousand Normans ruling over 1 million Englishmen. So the English could have just kicked them out, but didn't. As an American that has taken 23andMe, you're just a mutt. Well, you see, that we talk about cultures and genetic histories and ancestry. Your genetics are probably a lot better than mine because there's more diversity in there, if we're going to be honest. In fact, one thing that I am hoping, because my wife Vix, she is a redhead, very obviously of Celtic stock, but there's a lot more, her ancestry has got a lot more mixing in it because of her ancestors having gone over to the colonies back in the day. I'm hoping that my son, yet to be born, has a very good, healthy injection of diverse genetics. There's actually quite a tradition of men in my family. We've traced this back through the records, going all the way back to about 250 years, of men in my line taking foreign wives. I'm just the latest in a long tradition of that, which is really interesting to me. Because I had a grandfather that fought Napoleon and brought back a French bird. She was my great whatever grandmother. I went and found that man's grave. I stood at his grave a few days after his 212th birthday, I think it was. That was a strange experience, because you're sort of looking down at this patch of grass and this really old gravestone, and you can see your last name and know that this is sort of the furthest sort of recorded guy that I've gone back to, and in the ground in him, because he died when he was 80 to 90 years old, but they found after he died, in his body there was still about 4 musket balls from the Napoleonic Wars. He was walking around with musket balls lead in him, which to me is just fascinating. It also explains a lot of my grandfather, because he is refusing to die. He's had massive heart attacks, liver failures. I've dropped a skip on him accidentally. My dad's run him over accidentally twice. and he just refuses to die. Tough stuff. Much tougher stuff than me. I think it's probably skipped me, because my little brother is very tough. But me, I'm a wimp. The Habsburgs are just strange. And 2 steel balls as well, apparently. Indeed, yes. Just balls of steel that also produced about 10 children. Why is it that Habsburgs and Ptolemies aren't the ones that get brought up for incest jokes? It's always Alabama. That's because most Americans don't understand there is a world outside of America. I say that with the most love possible. But I have spoken to a lot of Americans in my time. I quite like Americans. I'm married to one. And the average American doesn't know much about things outside of America. And a lot of people in England don't know much about things outside of America because our education system teaches us about the American West for some reason, rather than, you know, our own history, which is really strange to me. In fact, I actually missed out on learning Latin because I grew up through a Labour government, whereas my little brother got to learn Latin because he grew up through a Conservative government. I'm jealous because, you know, I converted to Catholicism and I use Latin in church. So it would have been handy to know that from school. Every time I get injured now, I'm going to have to compare myself. Matt, I hope that if it's true that people in your family look down on you from heaven or some such, I hope they look away for certain things. I'll tell you that. I have brought great shame to my ancestors. Let's change the beats up for one more time. And then I should probably think about going and getting ready to take the wife out to dinner. Don't turn off on me, thank you. In Quebec, French, Ontario, and France, we don't learn much about things outside France. Even the US, we're not more likely than anyone else. Hell, for that matter, I've never heard of an incestuous relationship in all my life here. And FDR married his second cousin. That's not... I think that's legal in the UK. I know we're trying to ban first cousin marriages, but I don't think second cousins are too incestuous for our law. I would have to look that up. Am I allowed to say this on YouTube? Of course, I'm just talking about Crusader Kings. There we go. Make it better. The Black Knight, you are not, Jack. That's because black dye is incredibly expensive, and people need to understand that the medieval period was a place full of color and life and light and music. Black dye was incredibly expensive and reserved for nobility. That's because your history has too many kings and kingdoms for such a small area. Victor, all you need to do is learn 2 names. George, Henry. You know most of the English kings. You're welcome. As an American, we have much going on here. It's really hard to keep up with others. The drama here causes such volatile waves that it's hard to keep the nose above the water. Well, you are coming up on that Republic time cap. I know my Roman history. Have I missed anything? Shame to your ancestors. Are you referring to those art pictures you send me in DMs? You know, those with the redacted and the ones with redacted. Listen, you. I post those publicly. I have no shame on that. Lots of greens, reds, yellows, and even blues. Indeed. To be honest, one of the things that I'm looking forward to the Wayward Realms for is the sort of living through the history. I know that Basilius... Spoilers, by the way. I know King Basilius is intended to die. I'm going to try and save that fucker, by the way. My king! I'm going to jump in front of whatever tries to kill him. I'm going to attempt to delay that world event for as long as I can. My entire playthrough will be about saving King Basilius. I will become that man's best friend. And then the elves will take over, and it will be glorious. I make a Monty Python Jack, and Jack goes over all the history of that instead. Yes, and you know why, Ashray? I have a severe inferiority complex, and I have to sort of prove myself at every opportunity. Though I doubt they parade that about. I thought the whole idea of the incest Alabama thing was that it happened in the hills, but having never been there, I couldn't tell you. Are you sure you won't find yourself sympathetic to another claimant? The only other claimant that I would be sympathetic to. Put this down. Mark this down for a future Wayward Radio. By the way, thanks for the shout out on the last one. That was really nice of you. I really appreciate that. Made me very happy for the rest of the day. Made my day, that did. The only other claimant that would have my fealty, and I want you to tell Ted this, because I think he needs to understand how I feel on this matter. And you can write this down. Lord Godsend is not a villain. He is the rightful ruler of Ijar. And if he somehow has a claim to the whole of Splendor, I will follow that man through the breach, sir. Hell or high water, Lord Godsend, it will be the Godsend that Splendor needs. Seriously though, I can't wait to put Lord Godsend on the throne of Ijar and bask in the glow of the fires it causes. Although I think he'd have quite a bit of support, like a home-based support from the people there. The humans, the rightful owners of the island. Human supremacy. Noted. There we go. So, the Raven has been sent. Ted shall be informed. Oh, did I miss anything while I was ranting about Lord Godsend? I don't even know what the character looks like, I don't think. But I am very interested to meet him in game. Where are we? Most of my life was in the start of a little MS region. I do find American geography confusing. It's very large. Let's have another go. Let's go back to... You know what? I like this one. A bit epic, but I like this one. In other news, I am actually gathering some YouTubers together for another Dungeons and Dragons live stream. They don't have any idea what they're doing, but I think it would be fun. Very fun indeed. For anyone who doesn't know, Godsend is actually the name of the first D&D character Ted ever made. Very true, actually. Which is why when you referred to him as a villain, I thought, oh, Ted, you've just stabbed your own character in the back. Ah, man. Oh, by the way, Victor, I haven't forgotten about what I'm making and sending over to you and Vicky. I have not forgotten at all. I'm just really busy. Do I say something here about maybe having an option to or the ability to gift a certain access at some point, or do I just leave it at some veiled hints and move swiftly on? Japanese geography confuses me even more. There's actually a Paradox game running in the Crusader Kings 1 engine that I played about Japan. And it's very confusing because Japanese names, unless you're sort of fluent in them, they just go straight over my head. You need to make a character like we'll put them through hell. I'll leave it for now, Victor. But, you know, people can believe what they like about maybe possibilities of getting free stuff, maybe. Stephen King is a name we don't utter here. The man is strange, and I don't understand why he had to include certain things, and I'm going to leave it at that. I also disagree with him. I was actually having a discussion with Brass about this as well, and it'll come up on Tittle on Wednesday. I don't think that narrative arcs necessarily have to involve nothing but suffering for the main character or for a character. Frodo was likable without having to suffer immensely. He did suffer immensely throughout the story, but he was already likable. I find that a lot of people overthink the way in which stories function, and they try and George R.R. Martin, like smug Redditor, look how smart I am in their writing, you know? And I think that stories are quite simple, and all you really need is a hero, a villain, and to win. To have the hero win over the villain. And whatever happens along the way has to serve the purpose of fulfilling the arc of the story, which is already set out before you. Subverting audience expectations isn't actually all that good. There's twists and there's unexpected arrivals within the scripts of these stories, perhaps. To take George R. R. Martin as an example, the actual ending of his story should be the return of the king, because it's the Christian narrative. Like, all he's done is done the meta narrative of Christ returning. You could even call it Arthurian if you don't want to get into the Christianity aspects of it. But the idea of the return of the king, the return of the one true ruler, the world being set to rights, being ordered out of chaos. You can go all the way back to Samaria with Babylon and Tiamat and Sumer out of that, where you have this theme of there is a particular way in which the world should be, and we order the chaos to that. That is theme. And it is actually... Yeah, I don't know. I lack the vocabulary to do this sort of thing off the cuff. But suffice it to say, the natural arc of George R. R. Martin's entire series is the return of House Targaryen back to their rightful place, but with a king that is just and good. And I think from what I know from the last season of the show, he was feeding notes to the showrunners. And I think now that he's seen where what he was going to do was going, and how people just hated it because it subverts audience expectations and actually blue balls the audience, because the expectation is for to have the meta narrative of a story fulfilled. He no longer wants to write it, which is why we haven't got it. Because we all know intrinsically, morally, especially in Western traditions, that the king has to be put back on the throne, the world set to rights, and Brandon Stark has no reason to be on the Iron Throne. There, I said it. That is my narrative. The Jon Snow, Aegon, I think his actual name is, Targaryen, needs to be placed on the Iron Throne to rule properly. And I think Daenerys herself, if you wanted to keep that kind of edge to it, could just be the queen and they could co-rule. If you wanted to keep the edge and have that kind of yin-yang relationship between the good king and the slightly mad queen, that would be an incredible ending. No, I honestly think that, I think that the natural ending for the Game of Thrones should be for someone that is supposed to win the Game of Thrones to win the Game of Thrones. But I'm Malazan, and they will be humbled. That's the second time that you have told me to do that, and I probably shall. Hello, my love. Doing tea? Oh, I was about to wrap up.
Oh, okay.
Because they're getting close to time to go and feed you.
Yeah.
Do you want to say hi?
To who?
To just chat? We've got Once Lost Games in here as well.
Hello, chat.
Hold on, let me move the microphone for you.
Hello, chat.
There you go. You got a hello from the missus. How's the boy?
I think sleeping.
Sleeping? It's quite funny because we go to bed and he wakes up and I will just be listening to you go, ah, oof,
Well, he does not like the sides I sleep on. He likes to kick me in the sides I'm not sleeping on.
Cute. But with that, and having had my little rant about literature, do you want to say goodbye to the chat?
Goodbye to the chat. We're gonna eat delicious food in honor of you guys.
Actually, Emmy's. Yeah, you've excited the elf. I mean, she's here in just a t-shirt, so you know.
This is my house. I can wear what I want.
I'm not complaining. Right, everyone, thank you very much for coming. Do go and watch that show that I'm not allowed to talk about because they got banned. Emmy can put it in chat maybe. But I am going to log off and go and get ready